The man in the alley. Samantha had never liked walking home late at night. The city was a different place after dark. Quieter, colder, and somehow more menacing. But tonight, after staying late at the office to finish a project, she had no choice. The buses had stopped running, and calling a cab was pointless since the wait times were ridiculous this time of night. It was only a 15-minute walk from her office to her apartment. But every shadow felt longer, every alley darker than usual. She kept her head down, hands stuffed in her pockets, trying to make herself as invisible as possible as she walked along the nearly deserted sidewalk. Only the occasional car passed by, headlights briefly illuminating the cracked pavement before disappearing again. As she crossed into her neighborhood, Samantha noticed a man standing at the mouth of an alley about a block ahead. He was dressed in dark clothes, his face obscured by a hoodie. He wasn't moving, just standing there, staring out at the street. A chill ran through her. She told herself it was nothing, that people loitered all the time in the city. Maybe he was waiting for someone. But as she approached, she couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that something was off. Her heartbeat quickened, and she glanced at her phone. No messages, no missed calls. She thought about calling someone, anyone, to ease the tension in her chest, but it felt foolish. What would she say? "I'm scared of a guy standing near an alley." She shook her head, trying to push the thought away. "Just keep walking," she muttered under her breath. "Don't make eye contact." When she was about 20 feet away, the man stepped out from the shadows and started walking in her direction. Her stomach twisted. She sped up, eyes glued to the sidewalk. The sound of his footsteps echoed in the silence, and with each step they seemed to quicken, matching her pace. Her heart was racing now. The sidewalk stretched out in front of her like a never-ending path, and her apartment seemed too far away. She could feel his presence behind her, closer than before. The footsteps quickened again, faster now, almost running. Samantha broke into a jog, her breath coming in short, panic gasps. She didn't dare look back. She could hear him now, definitely running, his footsteps heavy and erratic. Her mind raced. Should she scream? Should she stop and confront him? But her legs had a mind of their own, and they pushed her forward, faster and faster. She turned a corner sharply, her apartment building just a block away. As she turned, her shoe caught on a crack in the sidewalk, and she stumbled. Her body hit the pavement hard, the impact sending a jolt of pain up her arm. She scrambled to her feet, glancing behind her for the first time. The man had stopped. He stood at the corner, just a few yards away, his face still hidden beneath the hood. He was staring at her, motionless, his head tilted slightly, as if he was curious about her next move. Samantha's breath caught in her throat. She backed up slowly, her pulse pounding in her ears. The man didn't move, didn't speak. He just stood there, watching. Then without warning, he took a step toward her. That was all it took. Samantha turned and sprinted the last block to her building, fumbling for her keys as she approached the front door. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely fit the key into the lock. She could feel him behind her, closing in. With a desperate shove, she unlocked the door and threw herself inside, slamming it shut behind her. For a moment, she stood there panting, her back pressed against the door. She didn't hear anything outside. No footsteps, no knocking. The only sound was her own ragged breathing. After a few minutes, she dared to peek through the peephole. The street was empty. The man was gone. Shaking, Samantha made her way upstairs to her apartment, locking the door behind her and checking every window twice. She collapsed onto her bed, her mind still racing with the nightmarish encounter. Maybe he was just some drunk or a guy who thought better of following her. But it didn't feel that way. The next day, Samantha took the bus, not wanting to walk home again. That evening, as she returned to her apartment, she noticed something strange. On her door, taped neatly at eye level, was a piece of paper. Her heart sank as she pulled it off and unfolded it. In scrawled, messy handwriting were 2 words. Nice run. Her blood ran cold. Someone had been watching her,